Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome once again to another Mobile Suit Gundam Ball Operation 2 Tidbits episode. Today, we're going to be talking about a mobile suit that, starters have a good access to, and it's a really fun mobile suit to start off with. Yet it's so unique that even in the series, it became a very well known unit just because of its unique design. Today, we're going to be talking about, why don't you tell them what we're talking about, Sertlad?
Oh, oh yeah, this one is gonna be a fun episode because we're gonna be talking about Gogg, the MSMO3 itself. This glorious and chunky machine is well known for invading Jabro and even parrying the almighty Gundam Hammer in that one episode where it takes place in Britain. I mean Belfast. Yeah, I think I've got my geography right. Sorry, I stopped because.
You're fine. And that is correct. We're going to be talking about the Gogg, a mobile suit that is a rate type at 300 cost going all the way up to 400 in Mobile Suit Gundam Ball Operation 2. Well, should we should we jump straight into talking about its stats?
Yeah, sure. Uh,
The Gog is a 300 cost raid, as mentioned earlier, with 16,000 base health, 20 ballistic, 20 beam, and 28 melee resistance, making it a very tough mobile suit, a very tough nut to crack at its cost. 10 range strength, 20 melee strength, 75 movement speed, 170 top speed, 55 thruster gauge, 45 turning speed, 14 close range slots, 4 medium range slots, and 2 long range slots. For enhancements, it has a frame reinforcement level 1, complex expansion slot level 1, anti ballistic and anti melee armor reinforcements level 1, anti melee armor reinforcement level 3, and frame reinforcement level 3. This mobile suit is already tough as it is, and with those enhancements, there is no way that you're gonna easily break through it.
Indeed. Not
Up,
only it looks heavy, it's also heavily armed, and the armor kinda adds to the bulk as well.
Speaking of its armaments, it has a twin abdominal megaparticle cannon with 650 power, 80% hit rate, 250 range, 1.3 seconds cooldown, and 15 seconds cooldown. Two shots is all it takes to stun, break maneuver armor level 1, but damage control level 2 or above might be able to survive those hits. For a melee weapon, it has its Gog Iron Nail at 2200 power and 2 seconds of recovery time, which is still really good, and the body torpedo tubes at 600 power, 2 ammo, 200 range, no cooldown because you fire them only once and 15 seconds reload. Would you like to take it away with the skills, Sertlod?
Hell yeah! So, while the Gog doesn't necessarily possess all of the armaments that it was seen with in the anime, namely the red jelly by the name of Freezy which helped it fend off those pesky sea mines. The Gog is still quite well equipped even in this game. We have a melee combo controller level 2, which gives it hefty free attack melee combo, which honestly that's pretty impressive for a raid, especially within this cost category. It has a balancer, specifically the high performance one, which allows it to tackle and melee well to kind of cancel the recovery from both falling and finishing off on high speed movements and things of that nature, which which then means that you can both chase the enemy since you no longer need to stop and land before following up with the melee, but you can also use that thing in combos and starting an attack early, which obviously comes in handy the given that the cooldown is literally 2 seconds long, which obviously makes any time you can shave off of the cooldown very valuable. It also possesses an anti-blast stabilizer, which means that the Gogg is no longer bothered by the explosions of the nearby mobile suits, which there will be a plenty of if you use your Gogg well. It has shock dampeners, which basically reduces stagger and effects of such nature after being attacked, which means that you can't really stack multiples on top of each other with relative efficiency. You kind of have to wait for the Gog to get back up so that you can poke him with full force again, which obviously helps.
Usually only
Then
heavy
there's the damage
staggers and
control
tackles
level
work.
3. Yep.
Let's damage control level 3. Please continue. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yes. So the damage control level 3 is a very, very hefty skill which reduces staggers when hit consecutively by attacks without suppressive effects, which means that it's almost like a maneuver armor, but it counts on the fact that you're gonna get hit by the same type of weapon that you would have parried with a maneuver armor, and only a weapon like a machine gun or a rocket barrage or anything that is literally made for suppression in more than one shot is affected by this skill and therefore mitigated by this skill,
Pretty
which
much.
makes the Gog very dangerous as he pursues its prey.
Pretty
Then
much.
there's of course the enhanced tackle, which you know it can spice up your melee on on top of being a solid boost to your overall damage output. As for its skills that are specific to amphibious suits, of course, it has the aquatic mobile shooting level 1. Very nice, very hefty skill, especially with a heavy suit like this one, and with its mobility bonus that stems from being in water. And of course, we have the good old assault booster, which obviously comes in handy for any raid player when he wants to get some high ground for approaching.
To talk about the Gog really quickly, the Gog would very easily fall under the classification of it being, in a way, a Guardian class Berserker mobile suit. Berserker, in the aspect of it, has a really powerful melee, and up close and personal, you don't want to mess with the Gog unless you have a equal melee priority and you have a way of actually stunning it, usually referring to heavy stagger, a tackle, backswing, forgive me,
Some heavy stagger, right? And
or
of
a
course, a shotgun.
exactly. And even then, you need to land a lot of shots with a shotgun. So, to showcase the basics of the GOG, sorry for the voice crack, we're gonna be showing a little bit of gameplay of it.
Alrighty
Right
then,
here we have the
let's get
GOG.
into it. This is a fairly heavy boy, as you can see from his majestic walk. And as he's making his way to the nearby unfortunate mobile suits,
The GOG may appear like a slow unit already in the eyes of many. Yet, the GOG also has a very strong skill, which is the shock dampeners. At such cost, you don't want a quick mobile suit to have that skill. As you can see,
indeed,
even with all of that firepower, the Gog it takes a lot more to stun, even with the charge of the beam rifle of the Gundam, or anything of the sorts. Only a backswing is able to truly stun it and knock it over. So, without further ado, let's turn on everything, so that we can showcase a bit the mobile suit itself. The Gogg, as you already can notice, does not exactly stun by your normal means. 3 swings allow it to perform a wide variety of attacks because of being able to combo pretty much every direction into a backswing. And on top of everything, it's also got a really quick recovery in its melee, allowing even tackles to not be really that much of a threat. The missiles on its torso allow it to, well, as you noticed, to very easily stun someone. Even a general type will not be safe from the Gogg itself. The Gogg's counter is a unique counter with a 3-strike claw attack, allowing it to get a very nice counter, and for damage and for punish. And of course, the Gogg is our Lord and Savior Niscooper, as you can tell by this poor Gundam that cannot even move. No Hyper Hammer for you. The neutral swing also allows it to, well, as you notice, from the Gundam to not stun, meaning that even a normal melee attack will not let you get knocked over.
That's right. The Gogg is, in some regards, fairly similar to its distant relative, or at least as far as the Xeon underwater mobile suits are concerned. The Zog has very similar defense capabilities, which is also one of the things that unites the two mobile suits in the GBO2's roster.
As you notice, overall, the Gogg can on its own hold its ground pretty effectively without the need of the allies, as it doesn't need to concern itself with a stun. Meaning that if played just right, you can, well, restrain multiple enemies at once. Do forgive me for a moment. Either
Of
way,
course,
what I will
we should
be
also account for.
what
Oh,
I will be
sorry.
leaving you for a moment for is I will be leaving you with Sertlar to tell you a bit about the Gog while those two poor unfortunate souls are trying to knock it over. I'll be with you shortly again.
Alright, so of course the Gog is yes, it has those two main stunts. However, mind you, the these two stunts will still fall under regular explosive attacks, regular two-beam stun attacks. So corresponding skills like the maneuver armor on certain mobile suits and for example the explosive reactive armor will of course mitigate his stunning capabilities, which yeah, that makes a desert gym in the right distance quite menacing against the Gog, for it can for it can't be stunned that easily and therefore can pose a threat to this little underwater skirmisher. On top of all that, the Gog, I'd say it's one could almost compare it to the grappler in the traditional fighting games, in sort of that aspect that it has to get close to deal heavy damage, but one of its biggest assets as it's closing in is the fact that it can withstand a lot of punishment, and at the same time, it its large profile kinda gives off the impression that this giant hulking monster that's making its way, you know, towards your general direction is truly a threat, and so you kind of have that psychological effect. Of course, when you know what to do, the Gog becomes a little less menacing, but you know it it still has a lot of presence on the battlefield nonetheless.
Do forgive me for the sudden
Back to
disappearance.
you,
Always
Carlos.
Always expect the unexpected, they say. That was a sudden change. But of course, as I came back and heard, and I will agree wholeheartedly, the Gogg is more than just a menace on the battlefield. Played right, a Gogg can change the tide of battle pretty easily. Do forgive me, I'm out of out of breath.
Understandable with such a breathtaking mobile suit.
Of course, peak performance on the battlefield and in design. Either way, the Gogg speaks for itself. It doesn't care how much you want to try to keep it in place. The Gogg does not stop moving. Therefore, move forward, pilots, into the battlefield. It was a pleasure once again having you here, Settler. I'm sorry for the sudden disappearance. The Gogg is a mobile suit that speaks for itself. If there is ever a need to, well, have a mobile suit speak loud, nothing speaks louder than the claws of the Gogg.
Of course. And before we close off, I'd really like to run over run through the things that can actually be a threat to the Gogg, because of course, there's a lot of people watching that probably do not know how to deal with the Gogg.
That
I'd
is
say that
that is a fair
the rail
statement.
cannon of going back to my sentence, I'd say that the rail cannon of the desert gym is fairly nasty counter to the Gogg, given that it can both stun and damage him with both build stun and a heavy stun, which, of course, in spite of all its armaments, the Gogg can not really deal with build stun.
Or
Well,
heavy stun.
I mean heavy stun without stopping in place, which of course opens it up for more damage, and you know, kind of denies it its advance and therefore its effective range. Then there's of course the heavy anti-ship rifles of the Zudas and the Jim Camuths, and similar weapons. For example, that anchor of the Aqua Gym, that one's pretty nasty too.
Another suit that has a heavy stagger is the Zaku Desert Type DA, which has that hip missile that heavy staggers on impact. It's a secondary weapon, but it's still a very powerful weapon as it can stop even the Gogg in its tracks. Another weapon that
The Aqua
was
Gym
referred
and the
to.
Gun Diver have one as well.
Every
Oh,
other goof
sorry
in
for
the... You're fine. Every other goof under the sun with their whips are also capable of stunning it, except for the normal goof, as its whip, unless you do a backswing, does not count as a heavy stagger, which the backswing obviously is a topple, as the goof normal has the whip as a melee weapon more than an actual whip, like the heavy staggers of the goof costume, the aqua gym, the Gundam Marine type, anything that counts as a whip. Anything that counts as a heavy attack also counts towards a normal stun, like the Zaku Desert DR, the Desert Rommel variant. And obviously, melee attacks that would normally knock over mobile suits will also knock over the Gogg. Meaning that the Gogg can never really suffer from a heavy stagger, it's just a normal stun, but still a stun regardless. On a mobile suit that lacks a way to roll out of stuns, if you continuously suppress and heavy stagger the Gogg, just like every other unit, it will be stuck in place. Of course, to manage to pull that off, you need to give up a lot of your instants, as there are a lot of units that do have heavy staggers in their options, but those heavy staggers very often take up something simpler like a bazooka or a tri-burst that builds up stun. So The suggestion is to not always build for a Gogg, but at least have a counter for a Gogg. I think that makes sense, right?
It's kind of in the same way as, yep. I'd say that there's the way you deal with the Gog is very similar to the way you deal with people that have maneuver armor. But obviously, the Gog is it can bypass certain melee hits. So obviously, either go backswing or switch to your guns.
Or tackle if you're brave enough.
Yep.
Because if you run out of fuel, the Gogg will be waiting.
Indeed.
Either way, thank you all for your time today watching this video. I hope that this video helped people that are starting out to look into the Gogg a lot more. People that have not really played with the Gogg, I hope will get curious enough to try out the Gogg after this video. Sardlad, thank you for being here with me today. It's honestly always fun
It's
just
been a
breaking
pleasure.
down mobile suits with you, and maybe in the future we might break down mobile suits together in Mobile Suit Dives. We'll see how things go with that series. Check out Certlad in the
Indeed.
Certlad archive on YouTube. Would you like to plug in your stuff here because I don't remember everything?
Well, I do have a channel on Odyssey, which is far smaller since it's on Odyssey, where I upload stuff earlier. But yeah, aside from that, I just have YouTube and, of course, my bird app for updates. That's all.
have a
Shirtlade
wonderful
signing out.
have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care. Have a good day. Have a good evening. Have a good night. And we'll talk to you all later.